He was a young oceanologist from Hawai, chasing the dream of saving his dying reef. But one night everything shattered. His mentor killed, a secret tag in his hands, and a corporation ready to silence him forever. Then came Durek, older, dangerous, hiding his own scars. What began as conflict turned into forbidden tension, saltwater kisses stolen on the pier, hands lingering too long in the dark, bodies pressed close when storms nearly drowned them both. Together they uncovered toxic secrets, fought off men in unmarked boats, and almost lost themselves to betrayal. Durek wanted to protect his son, Kai wanted justice for the reef. Between them burned a desire that could not stay hidden. Proof in their bag, enemies in the shadows, the storm rising around them, they had only each other. But can love born in secrecy survive when the world is ready to erase them both, or will the ocean keep their final secret forever? I used to think the ocean would never turn on me. I trusted its moods the way other kids trusted streetlights. That night proved I'd been naive. We went out after sunset, a small research run because the coral past the lava shelf had started dimming. Quick transects, then back, Nalu said, nudging the outboard. He was the closest I had to a father scar over his left brow, a habit of calling me kid, though I was 24. I pretended to be annoyed. It was easier than admitting how much I needed him. The island fell behind. I checked gauges, clipped my notebook, and glanced at the buoy wed set at noon. That reef should have glowed. Instead, the water looked tired. 15 minutes, I said. 10, Nalu replied. You get poetic when you're tired. I get honest, I said, and rolled backward into the water. Cold folded around me. The torch slid over antlered skeletons bleached, brittle, recent. I wrote numbers, drew boxes, tried not to feel panic behind the math. A turtle drifted past, listless. I followed the slope to where the current usually braided soft, and saw a gray haze hugging the bottom, fine as flour, drifting from a fracture in the shelf. Sediment shouldn't have been there. I took a sample and kicked you up, and my beam caught something pale, snagged under a rock lip. A plastic tag half torn. I freed it with my knife, it read. Clee Bay Logistics, Project Leviathan. The word logistics made my stomach knot. I surfaced, pulled off my reg. Nalu, I called, holding up the tag. You see this. Wind answered. Our skiff rocked, bow light stuttering. Nala's silhouette wastened at the wheel. Hey, I shouted. I grabbed the gunwale and hauled in. His fins lay on deck. His mask floated, filling with water. Then I heard a low thud of an engine that wastened ours. No running lights, just a shape cutting the surface, fast, wrong, starboard. I yelled to nobody. The hull flashed by, a metal flank, wake slapping our boat sideways. A man on the other deck tossed a black barrel. It hit and bounced, snagged on our towing line. The line sang tight. Nalu, I screamed, and then I saw him. He was half out of the water, one arm over the transom, eyes wide with a kind of surprise that hasn't found pain yet. The taut line carved across his forearm and into his shoulder. The other boat gunned it. Our skiff jerked. Nala's body slammed the ladder. I scrambled to cut the line. My knife skittered on wet aluminum. I gripped it with both hands, sawing, shouting. The line snapped. I hauled him in. He was heavy the way people get when they're trying not to be scared. Hey, I said, eyes on me. He tried. His breath came short and mean. Blood feathered in the water, pooling on deck. I pressed down with a towel. He laughed once, wrong, then swallowed. Kid, he said, voice shredded. Don't let them dump here. Who? My hands shook. Who is they? He looked at the tag as if it answered everything. The next wave lifted us, and he was gone before it set us down. People say the ocean takes what it wants. That night it felt like men took, and the ocean cleaned up after them. I called Coast Guard, coordinates half choked. They told me to stay put. A spotlight cut the surface, and uniforms lifted Nalu under a sheet. Questions followed statements, alcohol, permits. I answered until I didn't have a voice. By morning my phone wouldn't stop. The lab, the university, an unknown number. I showered until my skin burned, then put the tag in a sandwich bag like evidence. The unknown number called again. I picked up. Is this Kaimana Hale? A clipped voice asked. It's Kai, I said. This is Captain Brooks with Clee Bay Logistics, he replied. We understand you recovered a tag from one of our offshore partners. There's been a misunderstanding. We'd like to arrange a pickup and offer a stipend for your trouble. A stipend, I repeated. For your time, he said, and to avoid confusion with ongoing contracts. I looked at the bag. The letters blurred. Your partner killed my family, I said. Keep your money. Silence stretched. We're very sorry for your loss, he said finally, cool. Be careful with accusations. The ocean is unpredictable. Good day, A. Hale. The line clicked dead. At noon, the dean called. Sympathy, then liability. The university froze our grant. suspended fieldwork for safety, and asked me to take leave. I wasn't being punished, they emphasized it was procedure. By dusk, the island felt smaller, like the mountains had shifted closer and were watching to see whether I would break. I took Nallis pickup and drove until the road ended at a chain link fence. Beyond it, industrial lights hummed over tank farms. I killed the engine and listened. Trucks, pipes, a cough of machinery, a security sieve idled by the gate. A man stepped out, checked a clipboard, and looked up as if sensing me. I sank lower in my seat. Grief does strange math. It turns fear into focus. I held the plastic bag to the dash light and whispered the name. Clee Bay Logistics. Project Leviathan, somewhere behind those fences, was the reason the reef had gone ghost, white, and why Nalu had died clutching a line that should have gone slack. I didn't know yet that Leviathan already had a face and a voice, and that the first time I met him, I'd mistake him for the enemy. I only knew one thing with a clarity that needs sleep. I was going to find whoever owned that tag and make him look me in the eye when I said Nala's name. The funeral was small because Nalu hated crowds. By evening, I was back at the lab packing boxes. Administration had temporarily restricted access. I had 30 minutes. I took what mattered: notebooks, hard drives, reef profiles, and the bag with the tag. When I shut the freezer, a voice behind me said, "You're Kaimana Hale." The man in the doorway wore travel clothes that didn't belong to the island-pressed shirt, scuffed boots, a messenger bag. "Late 30s, maybe older, and you are," I said. "Durek Lang," he answered, "University of California. Am here to audit your grant and offer assistance to your team. We don't have a team." I said we had Nalu, I know. His voice stepped softly. "I'm sorry. Are you with Clee Bay Logistics?" Something flickered. "No, you should leave then." He didn't. He stepped closer, watched my hands. "You're taking raw data without chain of custody forms. I'm taking my life's work before it gets buried under procedure." I lifted the bag, and he glanced at the tag. "You shouldn't carry that around. Why does it explode? It attracts the wrong kind of gravity." I pushed past him. He followed to the hall, matching my pace. Outside, the sky looked scrubbed after the storm. He spoke again. "Let me buy you coffee. I don't drink coffee with auditors. I'm not here to shut you down," he said. "I'm here because your reef is dying, and someone is paying to make sure nobody connects the dots." I stopped. "Who? That's what I'm trying to learn. I was hired to evaluate Leviathan's environmental compliance. I resigned 2 days ago. You were hired by them, by a subcontractor," he said. "Which is how guilt likes to breathe." We walked to the pier without agreeing to. I sat on the edge and let my feet dangle. He stood. "You have people here," he said. I had one. "What do you want from me?" "Your data," he said. "And your brain, and for you not to put yourself in front of a truck alone. Too late. I read your papers," he added. "You're good. Don't flatter me in my own house." I swallowed. "If you were part of Leviathan, you're part of what killed him." He took it without flinching. "If that's true, then I owe you the rest of my life," he said. "Start with an hour." We ended up at a diner with coffee that punished. He slid a hard drive across the table wrapped in a bandana. "Eyes pings from unregistered vessels," he said. "Spill logs that don't mention spills. Drone photos of barrels offloaded at night to a tug that never files port calls. You stole this." I recovered my notes before they were deleted by a closed account. He said, "Semantics. We went page by page." He watched me follow his logic, not pushing, just holding the thread while I tugged. His forearms rested on the table, sleeves rolled, salt had dried in his beard like a secret. When I finally looked up, the room had emptied. "What is Leviathan?" I asked. "A waste stream," he said. "They call it thermal brine." It's not. It's mixed sludge-fine particulates, chelating agents, a cocktail that looks harmless at distance and ruins a reef up close. Why here? Because they could. Because there are places where a corporation can smile at a governor and call it progress. I leaned back. Anger surged clean and bright. Then we exposed them. He nodded. "We need proof you can't explain away. That tag's a start." "It's a start someone will say you planted," he said. "We need a chain that runs from their pipe to your polyp photos, sampling under there, boy, video, a timeline nobody can kick apart." His eyes held mine. He said, quieter, "You shouldn't do this alone. You keep saying that." "Because I'm trying to talk myself into staying," he said. There it was, the way he stood an inch too far so I could reclaim it if I wanted, the way his voice fell when he said my name. I hated that I noticed. Want felt like betrayal. I stood to go. Outside, wind rose. He walked me to Nala's truck. We stopped by the door, not ready to answer the question hanging there. He looked at my hands. I looked at his mouth. Thank you, I said, for the coffee, for not talking to me like Glass. He smiled small. You don't look breakable, he said. You look like you broke and kept the pieces that matter. It settled in my chest, warm and dangerous. We were too close. His breath touched my cheek. He reached as if to adjust my collar and stopped at my shoulder. His fingers rested there, careful, deliberate, a pause long enough to say what he didn't. Heat ran through my ribs. I took his wrist and set it back by his side. Gentle, because I didn't trust what would happen if I didn't. Tomorrow, I said, we go out at dawn. I'll show you where the reef starts to fail. Tomorrow, he echoed. He started to turn away, then leaned in and pressed his forehead to Minya, touch warrior's use or brother's use or lover's use when they can't be seen. It lasted a heartbeat that changed time. I'll bring the good thermos, he said. Bring silence, I said. He nodded and left. I sat in the truck, hands on the wheel, feeling the ghost of his hand on my shoulder. When I finally started the engine, the radio caught a station from the other side of the island. A commercial promised clean water and jobs. I laughed once, mean and tired, and drove into the dark. At dawn we launched from a smaller pier, just the two of us. The water was glassy, a trick that wouldn't last. I kept my eyes on the horizon. Dirk kept his eyes on me. Neither of us spoke until we were half a mile out. You trust me yet? He asked. No, I said, but you're here. That's a start. We suited up. I watched him pull the zipper of his wetsuit, shoulders broad, scar running under his collarbone. Noticed more than I meant to. He caught me watching and didn't look away. The air shifted, heavier than trade winds. Underwater, silence pressed in. We swam past dead coral into a pocket where color still fought blue, parrotfish grazing, a single anemone clutching. I pointed to sediment trails weaving through crevices. He filmed, steady hand, while I collected samples. Once, current shoved us together, masks clinking. His hand brushed mine and lingered a second longer than accident. Electricity bloomed inside my chest. We surfaced near the shelf. He spat out his reg. You were right. It's bleeding poison. I don't like being right. We climbed into the skiff, dripping. The sun lit his skin in sharp planes. Salt clung to his beard. I felt a pull that wasn't science. He leaned against the cooler, catching his breath, watching me peel off my hood. You okay? He asked. No, I said. But I'll survive. That's not the same. His tone wrapped around me. I looked down at my hands. They trembled, not from cold. He reached out, steadying them with his. Warmth bled through. Neither of us let go. Back at the pier, we hauled gear in silence. When I bent to lift a tank, he stopped me with a hand on my arm. Strong grip, firm enough to hold me there. I looked up. His eyes weren't professor. Calm anymore. They were storm, dark. You're carrying too much, he said. Not the tank, no. The grief, my throat closed. He stepped closer, voice lower. Let me take some of it. The space between us thinned. His breath touched my cheek, salt and coffee. His hand slid from my arm to my ribs, stopping as if asking permission. I didn't move away. His other hand lifted, fingers brushing wet strands from my forehead. Time slowed until there was nothing but the hum of blood in my ears. When he kissed me, it wasn't sudden. It was inevitable, slow, deliberate, and deeper the longer it lasted. My hand found his chest, the steady hammer of his heart. His grip on me tightened. Heat surged through the cold that had lived in me since Nalu died. We broke apart when footsteps echoed down the pier. A fisherman passed without looking. We stood frozen until the sound faded. Then Dirk leaned closer, whispering, If we keep going, we don't come back the same. I don't want to be the same. I said. His forehead rested against mine, and for a moment it felt like the ocean itself had gone quiet. The next morning felt different, not lighter heavier, like Wed crossed an invisible line. We didn't talk about the kiss. We didn't need to. It lived in the silence between words, in the way his shoulder brushed mine when we checked tanks, in how his eyes stayed on me too long. By noon we had proof. The samples glowed under the scope metallic traces, too high for anything natural. Dirk cross-checked with his stolen files. Thayer dumping chromium, he muttered. That reef is already dead. The rest will follow. Then we release it, I said. Send the data to no. To the press they'll call it inconclusive, he cut in. They'll say our samples were mishandled. You think they haven't prepared for this? I slammed the counter. So what, we stay quiet. He flinched, then steadied. I've been where you are, angry, ready to burn it all. I did once, cost me my job, my marriage. His eyes flickered. My son, the word struck harder than the science. I stared. You have a kid, had, he corrected softly. He doesn't answer my calls. His mother makes sure of it. He rubbed his temple. I can't lose more. The room tilted. You kissed me, I said. I know. You held me like you wanted more than proof, more than revenge. He met my eyes raw. I did, I do. He took a step closer, then stopped. But if they find out, if they paint us compromised, everything we touch dies in court, including you. I laughed bitterly. So you want me in secret, like a file you hide on your drive. That's not fair. It's true. Anger sharpened the edges of grief. I grabbed the bag with the tag. Nalu died for this. Am not going to bury it because you're scared someone might look at us and see the truth. Kai no. Don't say my name like that. My voice cracked. You don't get to touch me in the dark and then erase me in daylight. He reached out. I stepped back. For a moment, his face broke open, regret, longing, fear all tangled. Then he closed it, Professor, stern again. You don't understand how deep this runs. Then teach me, I said. I can't. His voice was a whisper. If I do, you'll hate me. Silence carved a canyon between us. He turned away, shoulders rigid, and left the lab. The door slammed hard enough to rattle glass. I sat down, hands trembling. For the first time since Nala's death, the weight didn't feel shared. It pressed only on me. The memory of Durek's mouth on mine felt like salt in an open wound. That night I walked the shoreline, the waves black as oil. I replayed his words, me son, my marriage, I can't lose more. Each syllable scraped like coral on skin. I told myself I hated him. I told myself I'd never forgive the secrecy. But when the wind shifted and I thought I smelled his cullen of smoke and coffee, faint as memory, I knew hate wasn't the problem. Want was, and want was dangerous. I decided to go without him. At midnight the harbor slept. I loaded the skiff with a drop camera, fresh tubes, a handheld sonar, and the courage that feels smart until the engine starts. Beyond the point, the water was darker than memory. I killed the motor and drifted toward the unlit buoy Durek flagged in his files. I put the anchor down. Visibility dropped to a narrow cone. The shelf fell fast. The sea floor looked scraped, as if something had been dragged across it. I followed gouges to a pipe that shouldn't exist, matte black, bolted to rock, humming in a frequency my ribs felt more than heard. Warmth bled from the mouth of it like breath. I filmed from 3 angles. The plume fuzzed the beam into a gray storm. I filled tubes, labeled them with shaking hands. The drop camera snagged. I tugged, until it came free with a jolt that kicked me into the silt. When I steadied, a second light cut the dark. Someone else was down there. I killed my torch and let the sea become a ceiling. The other beam swept slow, patient. I pressed against the pipe and held my breath like a child under a table. The light paused on the gouges, climbed the pipe, then slid away. When the beam vanished upslope, I kicked toward the surface, lungs burning. I came up into wind, and the silhouette of another boat longer, quieter, wrong. A voice carried, "We know you're there." I flattened against the transom, fingers searching for the knife I'd left on deck. The other boat idled close. A hook clanged my gunwale, then a body hit the water between us and surfaced beside my skiff, Durek. "Go," he hissed, shoving me over the rail. He climbed after and ripped the starter. The engine coughed, finally caught. A spotlight flared, bleaching us to bone. A man on the other boat lifted something long to his shoulder. Down Durek yanked me over the cooler as a crack split the night. A slug punched through fiberglass and hissed out the other side. He swung the skiff in a hard arc and gunned it toward the reef, where the draft would help us and hurt them. "You followed me," I said, half choking. "I knew y'a'd be stupid," he snapped. "Don't make me write twice." Hull slammed. Spray needled our faces. The reef teeth rose. He threaded a channel that existed mostly in faith. The bigger boat balked, clipped coral, cursed in metal. We burst free into chop and didn't ease up until city haze lay behind us like a lie. We drifted in a pocket of quiet. He reached across the bench and found my wrist, 2 fingers on my pulse, as if that could anchor both of us. "Look at me," he said. I did. Anger cracked and the terror underneath showed through. "You could've died," he said. "So could you. I already did once," he said softly, and I understood he meant the years he kept sealed for survival. The night pressed close. Our shoulders touched. The boat ticked as the engine cooled. He slid closer until his thigh warmed mine through neoprene. "Say it," he whispered. "That I'm angry," I said. "That I hate you for being right. That I went anyway because if I didn't, Nalu would keep dying in my head, all of it." I laughed once, broke in the middle, and he pulled me in. It wasn't a kiss at first. It was shelter. My face in the hollow of his neck, the heat of his skin, the way his hand found the small of my back and didn't let me float away. Then his mouth found mine and the world narrowed to breath and salt, and the quiet yes our bodies had been spelling for days. His zipper rasped mine answered. We moved together in the dark, slow and certain, the boat rocking like a metronome. We stayed like that, foreheads touching, until the radio crackled. Vessel is 14. This is Harbor Patrol. Reduce speed and prepare for inspection. Durek straightened. Blue strobes flashed a half-mile out. They tracked us. They were always tracking us, he said, and that call isn't for safety. As the patrol boat approached, my phone buzzed. A text appeared, a photo of us on the bench minutes earlier, bodies close enough to be undeniable. Another follow-ed underwater beside the pipe, the tag visible through my mask pocket. Then one more, now a skiff time. Stamp the night he died with a silhouette circled in red. A message, play nice, eh? Hail I showed him, he read, jaw set. New threat, he said. They don't just want the data, they want us obedient. The patrol hailed again. Durek squeezed my hand brave, grounding. We split the risk, he murmured. You hide the samples, I deal with them. No I, know these men, he said. They'll try to make you small, don't let them. He turned the skiff to idle and raised his hands where the lights could see, voice calm, professor neutral. I slipped the tubes and the drive into the dry well under the bow cushion, and snapped it closed with a towel thrown careless over top. When the officers came aboard, their questions were measured and meaningless. They left us with a warning and a card. Any unsafe activity, call this number, the taller one said. Sure, Durek said, smile winter. Cold. We watched them leave. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. He covered them with his again. We have proof, he said. And now we have a clock. They know what we know, he said. They won't wait long. We pointed the bow toward shore. For the first time since Nolu died, I felt something like hope alongside fear. It tasted like metal and rain and his breath when he laughed under Ida's, if he hadn't planned to let himself feel anything at all. By morning the messages multiplied, unknown numbers, photos of my aunt's storefront, Durek's rental. Me leaving the lab with the bag, same caption each time, play nice. I felt watched in places a camera couldn't reach. We publish now, I said. We publish wrong and lose, Durek answered. We need a voice, a signature, the man who says yes into a recorder. You know him. Brooks, he said. He thinks I owe him one last meeting. We chose a hotel bar that pretended to be private. Durek looked like a man walking into a past he hated. I sat at the far end, phone recording. Brooks arrived with the kind of smile that made me wish for Knifestand without sun, cufflinks bright. Lang, he said, you look tired. I'm off your payroll, Durek replied. Spare me. Brooks ordered something brown. He didn't look at me, which meant had seen me already. You've been busy, he told Durek, chasing ghosts. Dumped sludge isn't a ghost, Durek said. And what's in that pipe isn't brine. Big words for a man who signed NDA, and bigger crimes for a company hiding waste under philanthropy. Brooks leaned in. You want out clean. Send back what you pirated and lose the island boy. He's a heat source you don't need. The phrase slapped. Durek didn't flinch. He set a drive on the table. For a second I couldn't breathe. Betrayal tasted metallic. Brooks smiled. There we are. In return, Durek said evenly, you shut the discharge, file the permits you skipped, and pay an 8-figure fine. Today, you don't set terms, Brooks said. You think that's my only copy? Durek tapped his chest. This is the part I don't mind you stealing. The part that matters is mirrored. He glanced my way, Burley. Brooks followed his eyes and finally looked at me. You brought the ocean's boyfriend. I stood. I brought the ocean's memory. My phone kept recording. Brooks didn't blink. Last offer. Hand it all over and fly home. Well, make sure your son's tuition stays paid. The floor tilted. Durek stared at the napkin with figures at the drive at me. A feral fear crossed his face. Then he did the thing I thought I couldn't forgive. He pushed the bag with the tag toward Brooks. My hearing went underwater. Brooks' hand closed on the bag. Smart. You remembered who feeds you. I remember who starves the reef, Durek said, and his hands moved. He palmed the tag, left the bag light, and flicked a black fob from his sleeve under the table. My phone buzzed. An anonymous link appeared, video opened, Brooks on a dock at 2:13 a.m., directing drums to a tug with no markings. His voice clear, keep the lights off, the locals whine if they see. Brooks' smile died. 2 men at a corner table stood. The room tightened. Run, Durek said without looking at me. We ran. Service corridor. Heat behind the hotel. Footsteps close. We cut behind dumpsters over a wall into the alley that bled to the marina. Durek's hand found mine and yanked right. Not the truck, he said. Tagged the skiff, too slow. Sirens somewhere not for us, and still for us. A tour catamaran slept under a tarp. Durek ripped the line and shoved us aboard. You know boats, I know this island, good enough. We cleared the slip as a black sieve nosed into the lot. A man leaned out, phone at his ear, free hand pointing. Durek opened the throttle. The bow lifted wind tore at us. Headlights bounced and then vanished. We didn't speak until the lights of shore thinned. When we did, our words came from the same breath. You almost lost me, I said. I almost lost myself, he said. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to kiss him. My hands found his facet compromise. His eyes were wet and not from the wind. I was going to give it, he admitted. For my son, for 5 minutes I was the man I left in California, and now am the man you saw underwater, he said. The one who didn't let go. I pulled him in. The kiss tasted like panic and relief, and a future that wasn't promised. His breath touched my neck, his hand stopped on my ribs' warmth, bled through his shirt. We didn't need more to know Wed crossed every line that mattered. The engine eased, he lifted his head, eyes fierce. We burned them, Kai, all the way down, for Nalu, I said. For the reef, he said, and for the boy who won't answer, he added, voice breaking. I pressed my forehead to his. Then we don't run anymore. My phone buzzed again, a live map pin sliding toward the Harbor Patrol station, labeled Evidence Locker. Under it, tick-tock, they were coming for the samples we'd hidden. Durek met my eyes, clock started. Then we start first. I said, turning the bow toward the one place Leviathan couldn't pretend to own. The courthouse steps at noon, cameras, names aloud. Ahead, the horizon bruised with weather. Behind, the island glowed. Between them, Usfinley pointed at the truth. We never made it to the courthouse. The storm rolled faster than radar said it would. By noon, the sky was bruised, wind cutting sharp. We tied off at a public dock, samples pressed against my chest in a backpack that felt heavier than grief. Cameras would have been waiting, but the only lens on us was a man leaning against a sedan, collar high, smile wrong. Gentlemen, he said, like we'd been expected for dinner. Hail, Captain Lang. Well, take those now. Durek stepped in front of me. Not today, the man raised his hand. Sea of doors opened. 3 figures moved closer. Their shoes didn't splash. They'd walked docks before. I thought of Nalu, of bleached coral, of Durek's forehead pressed to mine in the dark. I held the bag tighter. You'll have to drown me, I said. One of them smiled. Easier than you think. Then the sirens started. Real ones? Local cops, lights bending through rain. The men froze, calculating risk. Too visible, too loud. In seconds they vanished into cars that dissolved into traffic. Relief came shallow. Durek gripped my arm, eyes searching. We bought time, he said, not safety. We walked to the edge of the pier. Rain smeared the horizon into slate. My hands shook around the bag. I could feel the weight of choices inside. Proof, revenge, survival. What now, I asked. His answer was quiet. Now we keep moving until they can't erase us. I looked at him, at the man Hod, broken and rebuilt in front of me, and knew the ocean wouldn't ever feel the same. Behind us, sirens faded. Ahead, the storm waited. We stepped into it anyway.